Okay, so I think at this point we all know what creepypastas are. And if you don't know, on my other channel, because I'm planning on doing something really fun with that, you'll just have to wait and see. But for right now, I just posted 3 readings, and well, I'm probably just gonna delete those, put them on the other channel, on this channel. But basically, so creepypastas. I've been into them ever since 2017 when I was like 7 years old. Because of being baby, because the woman who babysat us had a son who was into creepypastas because of a Gaming with Kev video on the horror elevator. So it got me into them, and then I watched Hoodum's top 30 creepypastas, and that video scared me. So I'll just go over 5 of my most favorite creepypastas from shortest to longest. I was gonna put Barbie the AVI in there, but I couldn't actually find the story. All I could find was the know your meme and some videos. And I wanted the actual story. I feel like I may have posted it to Facebook. If I did, I could just go look through there, copy it, put it on Google Doc. But if I didn't, well, I'm screwed then. But yeah, so if I do a sequel and I find that, expect that. But oh, and also I should warn you, there's gonna be some scary imagery. There's gonna be some scary pictures. Okay. Well, I've been blabbering for too much. Just get into the video. The Grifter is an alleged video that was first mentioned somewhere on 4chan's X image board. Watching it is said to be a soul-rendering experience, far more horrible than anything one could imagine. The few that have watched it were rumored to have been found killed in their homes, with the one thing in common between the murders being a strange doll hidden somewhere inside the victims' houses. There's a message at the end of the video in Esperanto. It says, "This child, now a young man, is still alive and lives in a local shelter whose name was not given. He never spoke, and it still is catatony." A man went to a hotel and walked up to the front desk to check in. The woman at the desk gave him his key and told him that on the way to his room, there was a door with no number that was locked, and no one was allowed in there. She explained that it was a storeroom, and that it was out of bounds. She reminded him of this several times before allowing him upstairs. The man followed the instructions of the woman, going straight to bed in his room. However, her insistence had piqued his curiosity, so the next night he walked down the hall to the door and tried the handle. Sure enough, it was locked. He bent down and looked through the wide keyhole. Cold air passed through, chilling his eye. What he saw was not a storeroom, but a hotel bedroom like his. In the corner was a woman whose skin was incredibly pale. She was leaning her head against the wall, facing away from the door. The man stared in confusion for a while. Was this a celebrity? The owner's daughter? He almost knocked on the door to ask himself, but decided not to. As he was still looking, the woman turned sharply. He jumped back from the keyhole, hoping she would not notice that he had been spying on her. He crept away from the door and walked back into his room. The next day, he returned to the door and looked through the wide keyhole. This time, all he saw was redness. He couldn't make anything out besides a distinct, unmoving red color. Perhaps the inhabitant of the room knew he had been spying on them the night before, and had blocked the keyhole with something red. He felt embarrassed that he had made the woman so uncomfortable, and hoped she had not made a complaint to the woman on the front desk. At this point, he decided to consult her for more information. She sighed and asked, "Did you look through the keyhole?" The man told her that he had, and she said, "Well, I might as well tell you the story of what happened in that room. A long time ago, a man murdered his wife there, and we find that even now, whoever stays within gets very uncomfortable. But this woman was not ordinary. She is white all over, except for her eyes, which are blood red." Does anyone remember an old PC game from the early 1990s called Mr. Mix? It was mainly a typing game, similar to Mario Teaches Typing, where you have to put words into a box to make a chef, the titular Mr. Mix, place ingredients into a bowl. Unlike most typing games, however, the game was notorious for having an insane difficulty curve. It had a words per minute requirement for each level, being as low as 10 on level 1 and as high as 85 on the third. By level 5, the requirement reaches over 500, effectively making it impossible to proceed any further. One of the main things that people immediately noticed about the game was the background music. On the first level, it was an unsettling pattern of growls that got progressively louder as the level went on, often causing damage to early computer speakers that were not designed to handle extremely high volumes. The second level had no music at all, and the third had what sounded like a very low quality recording of a hairdryer playing in the background. The remaining two levels had an incredibly loud high-pitched ringing throughout that caused severe eardrum damage to those who managed to get that far. Another rather disturbing aspect of the game was the design of Mr. Mix himself. He was a large, round-faced, overweight man with beady eyes and red spots on his cheeks. Most children who played the game report having vivid nightmares of Mr. Mix speaking to them in a quiet, raspy voice and threatening them to keep quiet about something. However, none of them could remember exactly what that was. One psychologist who saw many of these children reported being disturbed by the sheer amount of terror on their faces as they recounted details of the nightmare. Many of them broke down into tears in the process, begging for their parents to save them. However, no direct relationship to the game itself could be determined by these few cases, as not all children suffered the same adverse effects. For obvious reasons, the game did not sell very well. It remained relatively obscure until a few years ago, when PC hackers got hold of a ROM of it and started digging through it. Using memory hacking software, they managed to crack the game's code and bypass the impossible 5th level. What they found, however, was highly disturbing and caused many of them to quit the expedition altogether. According to the reports these hackers left behind, the game behaves very strangely if the 5th level is bypassed. The game crashes violently and closes, routing a bunch of files to the user's System32 directory to the point that the RAM is almost completely filled. These files are reportedly pictures of people with horribly deformed faces, appearing to scream in pain and agony, their eyes bleeding from their tear ducts, and their outer layer of skin torn clean off in multiple places. If the user attempts to delete these files, their computer will violently crash in blue screen, causing permanent, irreparable damage to the hard drive. The hackers found that this was caused by a lone byte in the game's ROM that triggered when the 5th level was completed. After removing this bite, they were able to proceed to the sixth and final level. Unfortunately, all of the original hackers declined to discuss what they saw in the final level. Each of them became extremely paranoid and reclusive afterwards, refusing to talk about anything related to the game and showing astonishingly extreme symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. Most of them ceased to be able to form coherent sentences within a week. Within a month, all of them had gone missing. All remaining copies of the game were destroyed. To this day, no one knows what was it that caused the group so much psychological damage. Maybe it's better that way. 2 years after this incident, a man was arrested for trying to kidnap an 8-year-old girl from a grocery store. Through DNA and fingerprint analysis, he was identified as one of the original hackers who had viewed the final level of the game. He was wearing a white chef's hat and had a look of unspeakable malice and insanity on his face. When interrogated, the man would only say one thing. Mr. Mix. Shh. So do any of you remember those Mickey Mouse cartoons from the 1930s? The ones that were just put out on DVD a few years ago? Well, I hear there is one that was unreleased to even the most avid classic Disney fans. According to sources, it's nothing special. It's just a continuous loop of Mickey walking past 6 buildings that goes on for 2 or 3 minutes before fading out. Unlike the cutesy tunes put in, though, the song on this cartoon was not a song at all, just a constant banging on a piano for a minute and a half before going to white noise for the remainder of the film. It wasn't the jolly old Mickey we've come to love either. Mickey wasn't dancing, not even smiling, just kind of walking as if you or I were walking, with a normal facial expression, but for some reason his head tilted side to side as he kept this dismal look. Up until a year or two ago, everyone believed that after it cut to black, that was it. When Leonard Maltin was reviewing the cartoon to be put in the complete series, he decided it was too junk to be on the DVD, but wanted to have a digital copy due to the fact that it was a creation of Walt. When he had a digitized version up on his computer to look at the file, he noticed something. The cartoon was actually 9 minutes and 4 seconds long. This is what my source emailed to me in full. After it cut to black, it stayed like that until the 6th minute before going back to Mickey walking. The sound was different this time. It was a murmur. It wasn't a language, but more like a gurgled cry. As the noise got more indistinguishable and loud over the next minute, the picture began to get weird. The sidewalk started to go in directions that seemed impossible based on the physics of Mickey's walking, and the dismal face of the mouse was slowly curling into a smirk. On the 7th minute, the murmur turned into a blood-curdling scream, the kind of scream painful to hear, and the picture was getting more obscure. Colors were happening that shouldn't have been possible at the time. Mickey's face began to fall apart. His eyes rolled to the bottom of his chin like 2 marbles in a fishbowl, and his curled smile was pointing upwards on the left of his face. The buildings became rubble floating in midair, and the sidewalk was still impossibly navigating in warped directions. A few seeming inconceivable with what we, as humans, know about direction. Mr. Malton got disturbed and left the room, sending an employee to finish the video and take notes of everything happening up until the last second, and afterward immediately store the disc of the cartoon into the vault. This distorted screaming lasted until 8 minutes and a few seconds in, and then it abruptly cuts to the Mickey Mouse face at the credits of the end of every video with what sounded like a broken music box playing in the background. This happened for about 30 seconds, and whatever was in that remaining 30 seconds I haven't been able to get a sliver of information about. From a security guard working under me who was making rounds outside of that room, I was told that after the last frame, the employee stumbled out of the room with pale skin saying, "Real suffering is not known," 7 times before speedily taking the guard's pistol and offing himself on the spot. The thing I could get out of Leonard Martin was that the last frame was a piece of Russian text that roughly said, "The sights of hell bring its viewers back in." As far as I know, no one else has seen it, but there have been dozens of attempts at getting the file on rapid share by employees inside the studios, all of whom have been promptly terminated of their jobs. Whether it got online or not is up for debate, but if rumors serve me right, it's online somewhere under suicidemouse.avi. If you would ever find a copy of the film, I want you to never view it, and to contact me by phone immediately, regardless of the time. When a Disney death is covered up as well as this, it means that this has to be something huge. Get back to me, TR. I've yet to find a copy of this, but it is out there. I know it. Everybody knows that if you surf the web long enough, you'll see some pretty sick shit. This is especially true if you intentionally dive into the dark underbelly of the internet. I've seen quite a few things I don't care to admit to, but one thing that I'll always remember is a site called normalpornfornormalpeople.com. The first strange thing about the site was that I didn't find it by actually looking for it. It was emailed to me by someone I didn't know. The email was as follows: "Hi there. Found this site is very nice, thought you might like. Normalpornfornormalpeople.com. Pass it on for the good of mankind." Pretty standard issue chain letter, although the URL in the last remark really piqued my curiosity. I was having a very boring day when I got this, so I made sure my antivirus was working and then clicked on it. It was a very average, very generic looking site. It gave the impression that the creators just barely gave a shit about making it look professional. The author seemed to have a very tenuous grasp on English, and on the front page was a long, boring, and incoherent rant that I don't remember or have saved. The site had a strange tagline, which even today people haven't figured out the meaning of, which was, "Normal porn for normal people, a website dedicated to the eradication of abnormal sexuality." And from the sound of that, I wasn't sure whether I was here to watch porn, or if I'd stumble onto some kind of eugenics program. But I was here now, and I was very, very curious to see what normal people got their rocks off to. So I scrolled down through the rant, and nothing. The page didn't seem to link to anywhere else, and I was about to leave when I noticed that every word of the rant was its own hyperlinked. I clicked one of them and was sent to a white page with a very long list of links in the form of normalpornfornormalpeople.com/random numbers. So I stopped for a minute and asked myself if I really wanted to waste God knows how much time clicking random links that would likely give me a virus that would rape my computer. I figured I'd try it for maybe 5 minutes, just to see if anything came up. I clicked on one of the links and was sent to another page. This page apparently had totally different URLs than the last one. I was just about to say, fuck this, when I clicked on the third link and a video download came up. It was called peanut.avi, a 30-minute video of a man, a woman, and a dog in a kitchen. The woman made a peanut butter sandwich and the man set it down for the dog to eat. This was all that happened for 30 minutes. It was obvious that the cameraman had stopped filming and waited until the dog was ready to eat again, and the dog seemed rather sick by the end of it. I know what you're thinking. What the hell does this have to do with porn? I have no clue. I have seen a little over 2 dozen videos from the site, and the majority had no sexual activity at all. After watching Peanut.avi, I went on a certain image board I frequent to play online show and tell, like I always do with weird shit like this. But someone had already made a thread about it. A guy who'd received the same chain letter I did. The image board thread had lots of people with nothing better to do dig through the site, and that's how I saw the other videos. Most of the 2 dozen videos were very uneventful and consisted of people talking to the camera in a room with nothing in it but a desk and a few chairs. I mean, literally nothing on the walls or in terms of furniture. The whole room had a very cold, sterile feel to it. The conversations were idle banter about previous jobs or embarrassing childhood moments. I kept expecting some kind of discussion about what the people were filming or what the site was about, but of course, nothing. You would never know these videos had anything to do with porn if you saw it out of context. I will say one thing, though. The people who appeared in these videos were quite attractive. However, the other videos that actually did feature content I suppose could be called sexual is where things got weird. I'll give brief descriptions of the stranger videos. If you're really eaten up with curiosity, you could try to hunt them down on a torrent site. LickedClean.avi, a 10-minute video filmed by a hidden camera in which we see a repairman working on a washing machine for the first 2 minutes. When it's fixed, the repairman talks to the owner briefly and then leaves. The owner checks to make sure the repairman's gone and then begins to lick all over the top of the washing machine. This goes on for 7 minutes. Jimbo.avi, a 5-minute video of an obese mime performing his act. It was actually pretty funny, particularly one part where he pretends to pull up a chair and then pretends that it breaks because of his weight. In the last 30 seconds of the video, the camera cuts to static briefly and cuts back to the man sobbing quietly, still wearing a mime outfit and makeup. Some kind of obscure fetish. Diana.avi, 4-minute video in which the cameraman talks to a woman in a room different from the interview room. This room looks like one you'd find in a normal person's house. Exactly where they are is never specified, as Diana only talks about her violin playing. She obviously plays her violin, but keeps getting distracted by something. I didn't notice this until someone on the image board thread pointed it out, but if you look at the mirror in the background, you can see a fat man in a chicken mask masturbating. Jessica.avi, another 4-minute cameraman video. This time he's outside of a house talking to another young woman. They talk about canoe rides. The camera zooms out to reveal the city streets behind them occasionally. The strange thing is that no one so far has been able to identify where the street is. Guesses have ranged everywhere from Europe to Australia to the Philippines, but there's yet to be a match for the street shown in the video. Tonguetied.avi, 10-minute video. The first 5 minutes consist of an elderly woman making out with a mannequin. The video cuts out like it did in Jimbo.avi halfway through, and the scene is then a group of mannequins huddled together in a circle around the camera. The lights have been dimmed, and the elderly woman is nowhere to be seen. From this point on, there's no sound. Stumps.avi, 5-minute long video where a man with no legs is attempting to break dance on a DDR mat in what looks like the kitchen from Peanut.avi, but much dirtier. There's a radio playing music unseen in the background, but it stops at the 4-minute mark when the man collapses on the mat in exhaustion. He breathes heavily and pleads with someone off screen to let him rest. This off-screen person becomes terrifyingly enraged and yells at him to keep dancing, which he does. You could hear this off-screen person begin to scream as the video ends abruptly. Piracy.avi. The woman from Diana.avi is masturbating on a mattress in the interview room, while the man from Stumps.avi walks around on his hands, wearing some kind of goblin mask. The door in this room was always closed in other videos, but it's now open. In this video, the only light in the room and the hallway is dark. Near the end of the video, you could see an animal quickly run through the hallway. And finally, the last video we uncovered. Useless.avi. In this 18-minute video, a blonde woman from one of the previous interview videos is tied down to a mattress in the interview room. She attempts to scream, but her mouth is taped over. After 7 minutes, a man in a black suit and mask opens the door, but he does not enter. He holds the door open for the animal that was running in the hall in the previous video. It's revealed to be an adult chimpanzee. Its hair shaved and its entire body painted red. When the chimp enters the room, the masked man closes the door behind it. The chimpanzee sniffs the air for a moment. It may have been blind, and notices the woman tied to the mattress. It goes into a frenzy and begins to maul her. The assault goes on for a grueling 7 minutes until the woman finally dies. The chimp eats flesh from her corpse for 4 minutes as the video ends. The thread exploded with activity after this video was uncovered, and people discussed it long into the night. When I came back into the image board the next day, I found that it had been deleted. I tried to start another one, and they banned me. I tried emailing the guy who sent me the chain letter with the site's URL. I sent him 5 messages and never got a response. I have tried to discuss this website on various places and have been banned frequently. The site itself was also deleted about 3 days after Useless.avi was uncovered, luckily because someone contacted the authorities about it. The only proof that normal porn for normalpeople.com ever existed was a few screen caps people took and videos from the site that people saved and uploaded on torrents. The most popular of which was Useless.avi, which found its way onto a few gore sites. Wherever you upload them to, all the videos from normal porn for normalpeople.com get deleted after a while.